Don't you just love it when you completely underestimate a task? I do this regularly. Hey, I'm Janelle, and this is toDIYfor. So if you're new to my channel, I do new DIYs every single Wednesday. Small things, big things. We're recovering furniture today, completely thrifting it. But I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't already, so you come back every week and check out what I'm doing, whether it's just for inspiration or you just, actually want to tackle one of these projects that I've done. So I wanted to kind of adjust the living room. I've never been happy with it since we moved in, mostly due to the furniture that we just transplanted from the last place into this space. It doesn't really work. It's a little too bulky, particularly the two chairs that we have in the living room. I've honestly been carrying these around from apartment to apartment for like 10 years now. And they originally were from the side of the road. So I thought that it was time to update this. I was just going to buy some stuff, and then I realized how expensive that was going to be. So I found some items on Facebook Marketplace. They were 20 bucks per chair. How could I not? Well, little did I know it would take me hours and days to recover just a single chair. So I wanted to have 2 chairs done to show you the whole look today. I only got one done. So I'm gonna continue to work on that and change a few other things in the space that I will show you in the coming weeks. But let's get into how I completely transformed this old, outdated thrifted chair.
So thankfully I was able to find 2 of these chairs for just $20 a piece on Facebook Marketplace. I was happy because sometimes it's really hard to find a matching set when you're thrifting. It had a very similar look to what I was kind of hoping to get for the space. Just needed a little bit of work, and I thought that I could easily, take this apart and fix it up. I would say keep that in mind if you're going to thrift a chair, but also keep in mind that it has like a good sturdy base, and these are made out of oak, so they were fantastic. They were a little bigger than I thought though, because they didn't fit in my car when I went to go pick them up, and I actually had to borrow a work vehicle to get them home. That's how much I wanted them. Anyways, I quickly removed the bottom piece there, just a couple of screws, and then this piece, I know I tried to remove that, but they're glued in together so well that it wasn't going to come apart. It basically just made it a little more challenging to sand, that's all. And this piece, the backrest, it gave me way more trouble than I could have ever imagined. But anyways, we're gonna cut into this fabric because this is how it's attached to the chair. So the screws are hidden in back and behind here, so you don't see them externally, which is kind of nice, but this was a pain in my butt, and you will see later. So just a couple of big screws here, pulled those out, and then we've got the chair apart, and we can start to sand it down. And that honestly is something I 100% underestimated. I spent a couple of days sanding just this single chair. It was hours doing this in the afternoon after work. And even though I have, this rotary sander, it took forever. Using a low grit sandpaper, so I believe it was like an 80 or like a 120 that I was using originally, and there were a few crevices that I had to go back in here with my multi-tool to get rid of that, which was really quick and easy. But I did go back with 220 sandpaper to make everything nice and smooth after the rough stuff. So if you're going to come and say, well, why didn't you just strip it? I have stripped furniture in the past before, and honestly, I cannot say that I think it would have been any quicker. It's a very long process as well. So I opted to test a few different stain options, only where you would never see on this chair, so where the seat cushion covers it. And I went with a red mahogany. I've used it previously in my apartment, so it's kind of a wood tone that we have. So once I stained it and allowed it to dry, I went back in with a couple of coats of polyurethane, and make sure you do a light sand in between that to get a nice smooth finish. So this is how I redid the seat cushion. It was pretty easy to do this one. There was a million staples in this, so I just cut off the fabric. But as you can see, this was sewn together. I'm not going to do that because I really don't have fantastic sewing skills, and I didn't trust them. And I knew that I could do this pretty easily with a staple gun, or so I thought. So I've basically just stapled in all the flat edges. and you leave the corners open for last. So this is the cleanest line that I could come up with. I cut off any of the excess fabric because we don't want any bulk. And then I've stapled that one side in nice and tight. I'm gonna tuck that corner in, and we're going to pull that tight and staple it in place. So as you can see, there is a second little pleat there. That's okay. Actually, the chair is going to cover that second one, but the front one is going to be shown from the front, and I'm okay with that. I thought it was pretty clean looking, so just trim off any of that excess, do the same on all the other corners, and you're done. Yeah, it got a little dirty. Now the back cushion. Look at how many staples are in this thing. It was unreal. I pulled out a ton of them, but I ended up just cutting off all of this fabric, and we're gonna recover it. So this again was sewn together. I'm not gonna do that. And man, oh man, this is where I realized, like, no, this isn't gonna work how you thought it was going to. But anyways, I went ahead with stapling this piece of fabric to the bottom. So this isn't really going to be seen. And I made sure that I had enough overhang on each side to cover the sides instead of having that extra panel in there like they did when they sewed it. So as you can see, there are a couple of pleats there because this rounds out, and there's really no great way to do that. And again, I'm okay with that. If you sew it together, you're not gonna have that kind of a look. But the reason I was okay with having this all stapled in here is because the wood of the chair is gonna completely cover that. Now, I didn't realize that I was actually gonna have to staple the whole backside down too before I was able to even attach it back to the chair. So like, I almost had a panic moment when I thought, how am I gonna get this thing back together? I know that this looks like a mess right now. I've got 2 little holes left open for where the screws are gonna go through, so I cut out the fabric there so it could get through easily. But yeah, that all needed to be stapled in place because I had to obviously wedge it in here, and I seriously panicked, but luckily, in that little tiny hole, I was able to like feel my way around and get the screw back in. There's 4 screws in there, so I got them in place. The first one was a little challenging, but once I got it in place, it was okay. And honestly, most of those pleats that you can see around the top rounding edge of that, most of them are hidden, and all of the staples are hidden by the wood in this chair. So to finish this out, I have folded the fabric underneath itself, so it's a clean line there. I'm pulling it as tight as I possibly can, and then I'm just stapling it across the bottom. And honestly, the chair was made this way. The staples were visible previously, and nobody's going to see those because they're tucked up underneath. So I am really happy with how this turned out. Yes, there are a few pleats in the upholstery. Is it perfect? No, but I think it looks fantastic in my space. I kind of can't wait to do the next one, but I'm also dreading doing the next one. But I think it makes our space so much bigger. Let me know what you thought of this DIY, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. I'll be back next Wednesday with a new one. Cheers. Thank you.